Welcome to the Tech Show. I'm Sonia Gavankar, and this week we check back in with Byton, the Chinese EV that we may finally see on the streets this year. And we have apps to help you meet the neighborhood dogs and a robot planter that follows the sun. All that and more coming up on the Tech Show. Now it's time for the latest. The genetic testing company 23andMe licensed the rights to a drug it developed in-house to a Spanish pharmaceutical company. This is the first time that the company has directly sold a product it created using the genetic information collected from its users. 23andMe has already shared genetic data with pharmaceutical companies. GlaxoSmithKline has the exclusive rights to use its data for the drug development and purchased a $300 million stake in the company in 2018. But those drug companies use the company's data to create their own drugs. In this case, 23andMe identified a drug candidate and conducted animal test studies on the drug initially before selling it. The Spanish company Almirall will take the product through human trials. We've now gone from database to discovery to developing a drug, Emily Drabant-Connolly, 23andMe's Vice President of Business Development, told Bloomberg. The company's repository of genetic and health data is a goldmine for drug development because researchers can look for relationships between particular genes and health outcomes and target them with therapeutics. The company has genetic data on over 10 million people, and it says around 10% agreed to let their anonymized data be used for research, including drug research. The terms of service say that customers who agree to let their data be used will not see any financial benefit, even if that data helps develop a blockbuster drug. The drug the company sold to Almirall is a molecule that blocks signals from small proteins that are involved in autoimmune diseases. 23andMe targeted the compound to treat psoriasis, an autoimmune disease that causes red and scaly skin patches. Lime, the largest electric scooter sharing company in the world, is laying off 14% of its workers and exiting 12 markets, according to a report in Axios. The move comes during the winter months when most scooter companies see a significant dip in ridership, and amid reports about the industry's struggle to turn a profit. In a statement posted online, Lime CEO Brad Bow said the company has decided to leave cities where micromobility has evolved more slowly. The cities where Lime will be shutting down operations include Atlanta, Phoenix, San Diego, and San Antonio in the U.S., Linz, Austria in Europe, and Bogota, Buenos Aires, Montevideo, Lima, Puerto Vallarta, Rio de Janeiro, and São Paulo in Latin America. Financial independence is our goal for 2020, and we are confident that Lime will be the first next-generation mobility company to reach profitability, Bow said. We are immensely grateful to our team members, riders, juicers, and cities who supported us, and we hope to reintroduce Lime back to those communities when the time is right. Lime, along with its rivals like Bird, Uber, and Lyft, have struggled to make scooter sharing profitable. Most experts agree that the market is oversaturated and needs to be consolidated. After a period of rapid growth, many scooter companies now have to take a step back and tackle some of their intractable problems, such as unit economics, software, batteries, and safety. It's Academy Awards season, and it's got us all thinking of our favorite films and performances. To help us get ready for Hollywood's most glamorous night, we're joined by pop culture junkie and movie guru Maude Garrett. Hi, Maude.
Hi there, so excited to talk about the Oscars and the best films out there because there's already been a few surprises and snubs and predictions happening, and I've got a lot to say about all of it.
Okay, which films are up for the most awards this year?
Surprisingly, it's a comic book movie for the first time ever. DC must be thrilled because Joker has 11 nominations. Does this mean that it's going to win all 11? No, not even close. I think it's only going to take out 2, and that's going to be Best Actor with Joaquin Phoenix, and I think it's going to be Best Score. There are 3 movies that have 10 nominations apiece. You've got Sam Mendes' World War I flick 1917, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Quentin Tarantino's love letter to 1969 Hollywood, and also Martin Scorsese's mobster flick Irishman. I don't think Irishman's going to win any of those. Ouch, sorry to break the hard news there. I think that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is going to recognize Brad Pitt as Best Supporting Actor. And I think 1917 is going to be the big winner of the night. It's going to take out Best Movie. It's going to take out cinematography, sound design, you name it. Like, this movie visually is so stunning. The entire movie looks like it's shot in just one continuous shot, and it's so gripping. It is my must-watch movie and my prediction for the big win.
The film Bombshell is amazing. Do you think Charlize Theron will go home with another Oscar?
I kind of hope so. I want her to. Bombshell was a really amazing movie that was only coming out at the end of last year, which is showcasing obviously the bombshell of Fox Studios there. Charlize Theron plays Megyn Kelly. She's a real life person. Charlize told me personally that she doesn't necessarily agree with Megyn's ideologies, but really wanted to tell Megyn's story in terms of what Bombshell's all about. She doesn't look like Charlize in this movie. She looks like Megyn Kelly. The last time that Charlize completely had a transformation for an acting role was 2003's Monster, where she picked up Best Actress in 2004. But in that same year, Best Supporting Actress was won by Renee Zellweger for Cold Mountain. She is also up for Best Actress for Judy, the biopic where she plays Judy Garland, and she's already won the Golden Globe and the Screen Actors Guild Award and the Critics' Choice Awards. So I think even though I want it to be Charlize, it's going to be Judy. I mean, for Judy, sorry, it's going to be Renee Zellweger. Can I just say, though, if you want to watch Monster, get a refresher. She's amazing in it. Charlize's best performance. You can check it out on Tubi.tv for absolutely free. And it's directed by a female, something that is not recognized at this year's Oscars.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. We have to look out for our female directors.
Yeah, and it's not like they're not making movies. Greta Gerwig made what I think is the best film of the year with Little Women, and she's previously been nominated for Lady Bird. So it's kind of a little bit disappointing to see that she didn't get recognized with that one.
What other classic films should we watch on Tubi when we start feeling Oscar-y?
That's it. I love, as a cinephile, to go back and look at all of the Hall of Famers and previous winners and nominees, because there's so many great movies out there. And Tubi has a bunch of them, including 1952's winner, Roman Holiday, starring Audrey Hepburn, who also took out Best Actress in that one. It put her on the map. We are talking classic film here. So if you love movies at all, check that out.
How should people get started with Tubi?
Yeah, you can jump on and watch it absolutely free on Tubi.tv. It takes about 10 seconds to get an account, but there's no strings attached. You just get to watch over 20,000 movie and TV titles.
Thanks, Maud. Welcome back to the Tech Show. We didn't get a chance to go to the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas this year, but luckily our friend Marcus Brownlee did. And here's the best of what he saw on the show floor.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm KBHD here. So CES is always a pretty all over the place, usually pretty wild show. This year, I actually think was better than most. There was a lot of interesting stuff floating around. I walked around on the show floor for many, many hours, saw a bunch of stuff, pointed cameras at it, so you don't have to. This is the best of what I saw. So a lot of people have asked me what was the best part, what's the best thing at this year's show? And to those people, I've been saying the Sony car, which I think was the biggest surprise that no one saw coming. So I'll start there. So Sony had a car in their booth, and hot take, I think it looks better than almost every other electric car or any other car out there, and better than a lot of the cars on the streets today. But before we get too excited, no, this is not a car that they plan on shipping or letting real people buy and drive, at least right now. What they've done here really is put together a one-off prototype car that's a demonstration of all the different technologies Sony makes that they feel they're kind of already in the automotive business. So you see Sony does a lot of stuff. They make camera sensors, and they're Sony Alpha cameras. So this car has rear-facing cameras instead of rear-view mirrors. There's radar and LiDAR sensors, which are all needed for self-driving, computer systems, and the interior that I didn't get to play with had a massive display and a UI that also all seemed to work fairly well, which makes sense because Sony also makes computers and smartphones too. Then the rest of the car stuff, like brakes and tires and things like that, they had help from a company called Magna to build it out, and that's how they ended up with a fully functioning, working car. So I asked about specs, and I was told quad motors, 0 to 60 in 4.6 seconds, and a top speed of 149 miles an hour. Not that these specs actually matter because you can't actually get one. But I was really most impressed by the design, and that's why I want it to be so real. It had some Tesla and some Porsche lines, like a nice hybrid between the two of them. The whole thing was this satin silver, so no ugly glossy paint with fingerprints or anything like that. And it also helps that it was lit really well. So yeah, Sony came to CES. People were expecting maybe a PS5, but they would be silly to waste a PS5 announcement at CES. So we got a car. You know what might have caused even more confusion to me though? Samsung's new phones. So for the first time, they actually showed in their booth what I mentioned in the last video, the Samsung Galaxy Note 10 Lite and the Samsung Galaxy S10 Lite. Now, since we already have Galaxy S10e, I was confused, so I asked the Samsung reps that were at the booth, are these flagships? And their answer was, well, no, these are light flagships. So take that for what it's worth. So these phones both have a 6.7-inch 1080p flat OLED displays with the selfie camera cut out in the top middle. They both have 4,500 milliamp hour batteries, but no wireless charging. And they run a Snapdragon 855 in the S10 Lite and a similar Exynos 9810 in the Note 10 Lite. And they both have this new rectangular camera bump on the back that we're expecting as a design in the new flagships in a couple weeks. Although the camera situations are slightly different on each of them. The Note 10 Lite has three 12 megapixel cameras, a wide, a 2x telephoto, and an ultra wide, simple enough. But then the S10 Lite has a 48 megapixel main camera with super steady shot video, then a 12 megapixel ultra wide, and a 5 megapixel macro camera. And then Note 10 Lite also adds the stylus, of course, and a headphone jack, but it's the only one not coming to the United States. Then OnePlus showed a concept phone at CES, the OnePlus Concept One, with electrochromatic tinting glass on the back of the phone that can both hide the ugly camera bumps of the future and act as ND, neutral density filters, for photos and videos. I did an entire separate video on this concept phone, so if you want to check that out, link right below that like button. It's a good one. And they also brought to CES an entire piano made of OnePlus 7T Pros, all smartphones. Okay, then I saw not just one, but two different rotating TVs on the show floor at CES this year. One from TCL with these rounded corners to match a typical smartphone display, and one from Samsung called the Samsung Sero. Basically, the idea here is we do so much streaming and content viewing from our smartphone that we might as well have our TVs rotate between portrait and landscape to appropriately frame the content we're watching without black bars, depending on your smartphone orientation, which I guess makes sense. Or we could just stop shooting so much vertical video. Anyway, I also saw, I stopped by the Bosch booth quickly, where I also was treated to a pretty interesting surprise, which was an LED activated sun visor for a car. Basically, this entire rig is just a camera somewhere in the front of a car doing face tracking, and then the clear panel in front of your face will block out the sun, but still leave other areas you need to see, like the road and the traffic light you're stopped at, things like that. And it worked pretty well. Not perfectly, but it kept my face and eyes shaded, tracked, which was cool, and then I could see other things. Okay, cars. So there were a lot of cars, just like there are at every CES, and there was one pretty wild Mercedes one that I wanted to see, but I didn't. But that was apparently out in the streets and driving around. It didn't even really look street legal or real. I fully didn't expect this to be a real car, but I did see two real electric cars that I think coming up are going to be, well, probably pretty interesting autofocus episodes. So the Ford Mustang Mach-E is one of them. So the electric SUV Mustang, it was there, and I gotta say, I'm not a Mustang person, obviously, but this one here in the blue did look better in person than a lot of the Mach-E's I've seen in videos and photos. It's a pretty normal size, like a Honda CR-V type of crossover size, and it has a lot of cameras all over the place, a lot of sensors, but overall looks pretty finished, looked pretty complete here. There were a lot of robots at CES, but still, again, none of them were quite as cool as the Omron ping pong playing robot that I got to rematch with this year. So this year, the giant ping pong instruction robot which is just a combination of Omron's technologies again, used as a showcase, but not actually for sale. This one will not just keep track of how well you're hitting the ball back to the robot, but also how your emotions factor in. So there's new cameras and things keeping track of how much you smile versus how much you frown, and it's sort of trying to sense if I get frustrated or unhappy with something, and it'll do that less, but still help me work on my game, which I thought was hilarious, and it was all shown on the display live as we were playing.
Coming up after the break, car tech. Don't go away. Back in 2018, we saw Byton's concept for the first time at CES in Las Vegas, and this year they were back to debut their first production vehicle, the Byton M-Byte electric SUV. And The Verge was on hand to check it out.
Hey everyone, this is Sean O'Kane from The Verge, and I'm about to drive the Byton M-Byte electric SUV. Let's go for a ride. Now, in case you don't know who Byton is, they're one of the many EV startups around the world that are trying to bring an electric vehicle to market. They're based in China, and they basically made their public debut here at the Consumer Electronics Show in 2018, where they showed off a concept version of this car. Now, they've spent the 2 years since then refining the car and getting it ready for mass manufacturing at their plant in Nanjing, China. And the version that I got to drive here today is the second pre-production prototype to have rolled off that factory line. Now, Byton's whole thing isn't about really crazy performance or super high luxury. What they really are talking about doing with their cars is changing the whole paradigm around user experience. And the focal point of that is obviously that massive screen. It's the first thing you notice when you look at this car. It's 48 inches long, and it stretches from pillar to pillar. It's a very divisive thing, and a lot of people have been really worried about what it would be like to drive with a screen that big in front of you. And I gotta say, just from spending a couple minutes in the car, I can understand how you might be able to literally look past it. The screen is enormous, but it's sunken into the dashboard, and Byton's also done a lot of work on the software side to make sure that it's not so distracting. You can turn off all the widgets that make up the user interface, for example. And some things like the news feed widget won't update while you're driving. You also can't watch video while you're driving, which is probably a good thing. In fact, the thing that I probably found more distracting than anything is the screen on the center of the wheel. It was a little bright in the pre-production prototype, and I'm sure you'd be able to turn that brightness down in the final version, but even if that's the case, it's just right there in front of your vision. There is another screen coming off of the center console, but I never really noticed that. The weirdest thing about this whole experience is that we've just never had this kind of experience before in a car, so it's hard to really get a sense of how all this is going to play out, because there's just so much going on in this interior in a way that no other car has ever thrown at a driver, that it really is going to take this car getting into the hands of people before we understand what kind of impact all this technology is going to have on people. The whole pitch that Byton's trying to make is that this technology will gain even more value if and when it's able to come up with partially self-driving technology or fully self-driving technology. But that's a long way off. So in the meantime, Byton's going to have to do a lot of work as this car comes to market later this year in convincing people and honestly just teaching them how to use this car the right way. And the screen isn't the only thing that Byton's trying to sell as a new idea. They're also talking about doing a lot of health data integration, collecting a lot of information about the driver, and using advanced technologies like facial recognition. A lot of stuff that people are actually kind of wary about now. So in that sense, trying to sell people on the idea of a giant screen in the car doesn't actually seem like that crazy of an idea.
Now here's the next 4 apps you should download on this week's App Tech. L'Oreal is continuing to advance into the tech space with the announcement of its Bluetooth-connected Perso, a gadget that will mix up lipstick, foundation, or a skincare regimen that's customized to whoever owns it. When Perso is officially available in 2021, people will be able to hook up their social media accounts to the app and get color inspiration from there. The idea is that you can match whatever your favorite influencer is wearing or recreate specific looks. You can preview that color on yourself using augmented reality before committing to making it. Once you decide to create that color, the Perso uses 3 swappable color cartridges to squirt out the right amount of each color that, when mixed together, create your desired look. The skincare version of Perso involves the app scanning your face from various angles and diagnosing your problem areas, then creating a morning and nighttime regimen. Unlike the lipstick and foundation, which take color cartridges, the skincare cartridges are SPF serum and moisturizer. We all have a standard weather app on our phone, or perhaps we've downloaded additional ones, but Swacket is a different kind of weather app. Do you ever check the temperature before you head out of the door and still don't know what to wear? Swacket has you covered. This app tells you the weather and conditions, what it will actually feel like, and suggests types of clothes you should wear to dress weather appropriately. No freezing in February or sweating in October ever again. Dog walkers know how easy it is to randomly talk to people while walking their pooch, but Meet My Dog just made it even simpler. You can easily use it to see what other dogs are in your area, chat with other owners, and even set up doggy dates for you and your hound. Coffee Meets Bagel is a dating app geared toward those who are looking for a real relationship rather than short flirting. Every day at noon, you get sent a prospective match based on a specific set of criteria. You can like them or pass on. If you like them, you'll be set up with an icebreaker question. If you pass, the app will learn your preferences and try again tomorrow. We've got one last break, then it's time for Take My Money. You're watching The Tech Show. Now it's time for Take My Money, and if you have the opposite of a green thumb, you might want to check out this cute robot. It's a $300 robot that chases you around until you do your chores, but it will save the poor little shrub you have every intention of taking care of till you get too busy. So I say, Vin Cross Hexa, go ahead and take my money. You creep me out a little bit, but I like you. Thank you for joining us this week. Follow us at The Tech Show TV and join the conversation. Check you later.